there was a moment when we had like 1 million signups a day. Like, it sounds great, but again, it's just imagining like you have this building with, say 1 million people capacity, and you need to build another building within a day.
I think to be a startup founder in the past, it's actually you're in a position of privilege because something's allowed you to not work maybe and focus on this problem. Like, it's a luxury and it shouldn't be that. And I think, like Lucy said, we need more innovators. Like, the world that we're living in currently is not going so well. Like, we need people to be innovating in every area.
What we're trying to do is say, you take that passion, that love, and that ambition, and we want you to grow it and figure out how you're going to scale that and, really take your innovation to the world. We're trying to get people to really just look up, look at the world. How can we make whatever this dream is bigger than it is right now?
So first of all, we care about the problem deeply. And I think for any women, that's where purpose comes from, is you see something needs to be solved and you turn it into a business. And that is success. That is your definition of success. It doesn't need to fit into, VC funding or Uber growth or hockey stick growth or taking over the world. If it does, amazing. That is your problem to be solved, and go for it. But for us, it's something we first of all identified with a problem, which is women are effectively overlooked when it comes to...
Welcome to the Startup Theatre Podcast. This podcast is produced by Empire Films.
Hi, welcome to Startup Theatre Podcast. I'm Adrienne Muir. Slightly different today for everybody. You have me very much in the hot seat. Troy is still sunning himself in Europe and having an amazing time with his daughter Molly, which is fantastic. I, though, however, am sitting here in studio. We have got an Electrify Aotearoa special for you all today. We've got Serge on the ground with the ladies, speaking to the women at the event, and I have got 3 incredible podcasts coming up in the guests for you as well. So we've got Powersuit, we've got Cammy, and we've also got the incredible ladies from Contented. Over to you.
Thank you, Adrienne. Here I am with the instigator, Marian Johnson. You're the instigator of Electrify. Tell us a little bit what it's all about.
So Electrify Aotearoa is all about growing the women founder pipeline and then just making sure that those high growth startup founders have the best possible journey, the best possible opportunity for success. Yeah.
And how are you going? How do you think that from a project perspective, from a progress perspective, how do you think it's going?
Freaking awesome. I mean, I saw the 4 queues coming into the doors in the morning. I recognized so many of the faces having come previously. I'm eavesdropping on conversations with people who are doing seriously amazing deep tech stuff. Many of them are like software platform founders. Many of them are service providers. Many of them are like your classic owner, operator, entrepreneur, potentially like a life coach or something like that. And for those, what we're trying to do is say, you take that passion, that love, and that ambition, and we want you to grow it and figure out how you're going to scale that and, really take your innovation to the world. So we're trying to get people to really just look up. Look at the world. How can we make whatever this dream is, bigger than it is right now?
Awesome. And think of aspiration. What is your aspiration for women founders in Aotearoa and the world?
Well, it starts with my aspiration for New Zealand, right? Well, obviously the world, but New Zealand and the impact that we can have on the world. And right now, we're just not having that impact. Right now, we have 2,600 founders approximately across New Zealand. And if we really want to be leading on the world stage in terms of as a country that is innovation-led, that has an economy that is innovation-led, then we need to be at around 5,000. Like, that's a statistic that we worked backwards through Startup Genome. So to get to 5,000, from 2,600 to 5,000, we are going to need all hands on deck. Yeah. And the easiest way to do this is to bring all of the kind of lower participation groups together and bring them into the pipeline, show them how they can achieve their ambition, achieve their dreams through the startup journey. So that's the big goal. And of course, so women founders, I think 3 out of 4 teams are mostly all male-led teams. Well, 3 out of 4 teams are all male-led teams, which means that you've only got 1 out of 4. Let's make it half and half. It doesn't mean less of the pie.
It's a much bigger pie.
It's a bigger pie,
Yeah,
right?
of course.
So that's the goal.
Awesome. And you've got some pretty compelling speakers on the lineup. So far, what are a couple of the nuggets from the people you've heard from today?
I mean, gosh, for starters, our MC is Janine Granger.
She's awesome.
Right. So Janine Granger is an incredibly inspiring individual. She founded Easy Crypto. She exited earlier this year. And then you've got your classic like startup heroes, Alliv, who's going to close the show. And she obviously did a partial exit. Was it 350 million for Cammy? 83% of all American schools are using Cammy. Insane, right?
Crazy.
From New Zealand, right? 3 founders who went to University of Auckland and then took their dream to the States. I mean, like there's a huge story in between. It didn't happen overnight, et cetera, et cetera. But then we're talking about founders who are right at the start of their journey or like, 2 steps into their journey, like Nicole from Pam.
Yeah.
So Nicole from Pam has completely bootstrapped from start to finish. She took, I think it was 120,000 she was going to spend on an extension for a new bathroom. And she put this into her dream, which was this Pam platform, which it's quite incredible what she has managed to build. But the thing is how smart she was in building it. She did a no-code prototype. She did things like, drinks evenings with her friends to check on, to really validate the market. She didn't take anything for granted. And she just said, I don't know how to flipping do this, but I'm going to work it out step by step. And that's exactly what it takes. So I think like Nicole is pretty much what we want to be doing with every single woman out there. If they're at that early stage, there's plenty of women out there who are not. They're beyond that. And for them, this is now things like, okay, how do I scale from founder-led sales to a team? How do I hire that team? And so we dealt with a lot of that with the masterclasses yesterday. And then today we have a whole lot more of that information coming through from people like Aubrey Blanche Seriolano, who was the, I don't know if she continues to be, I think she's kind of part-time now with Culture Amp. She was the chief people officer at Culture Amp right at the beginning, this massive Australian unicorn. So just so many brains on that stage, so many people sharing how they did it and the trouble they had along the way.
Awesome. Well, look forward to participating in your journey and our journey as a country to make another 2,500 entrepreneurs, and hopefully many or most of those will be women.
Yes.
So thanks for joining us. Thanks for putting on Electrify. Back to you, Adrienne. Who have you got
Serge.
next?
Okay, Serge, thank you very much. It's amazing. I'm now in the studio with Alliv.
Hi, Adrienne.
How are you?
Good, thank you.
Thank you so much for coming and joining us today on the back of our Electrify podcast. Tell me, you were there last year, right? Did you go attend Electrify, the last one in Christchurch?
2 years ago in
2 years ago.
Christchurch.
Okay. Tell me about it.
Oh my goodness. Like it was my first time.
Yeah.
And I thought it's just going to be another, conference and gathering, but the Electrify name literally lives up to its name. Like it was electrifying. Like the vibe of the crowd, like the people that you meet, the energy
Right.
is something that I've never seen here in New Zealand. Like that's why when Marian asked me to come back again this year, I was like, absolutely. I want to be back. I want to, catch up with a lot of the, female that we've met 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And we've connected for a long time now, and it's great to just catch up with them and also meet new people.
Totally. Because I think you and I met at the Wellington Growth Jam. I
Yes.
sat behind you going, come being your hype girl. Come on, this is amazing. And you got up and spoke with, I think there were 6 others.
Yes.
And afterwards, everyone was kind of talking about the people that had got up. And I was like, Cammy, you just like, as a company, you kind of got up and you were like, hey, hi. We've got 50,000 million, billion, trillion users and we're just kind of global. And you were just so relaxed about it. And I loved it. And you were like, afterwards, how did it go? And I was like, that was amazing. Like people were talking about it afterwards. For
great.
those people who have lived under a rock, I always say this, particularly in New Zealand, tell me a little bit about Cammy, because it is an incredible story.
Yep.
And as a co-founder of the company, like you have done amazing things, and you always come to the party a little bit like, this is kind of normal, but trust me, it's not. Tell me a little bit about it and where you sort of your background and how you came about.
So Cammy is 12 years old.
12 years old. Okay.
So it's my first baby. It's our firstborn.
Proper baby.
We started a company while myself, my then boyfriend, now husband, and his best friend joined this entrepreneurship competition in Auckland Uni. We didn't win. However, we met our mentor, who became our fourth co-founder.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Bob. So he's the designated adult of the group.
Okay.
And after that competition, it gave us a good view of being an entrepreneur. And it actually validated the idea that we had in mind that we want to do a tech startup.
Right.
And we're like, absolutely, we're going to continue doing this. We're so psyched. We're like just energized to keep going. So that was around 2012. And then we officially registered the company around 2013. So it's been 12 years. And we are an education technology company. So our app is used in the classroom by teachers and students. Our biggest market is the US.
Right. I did wonder about that because I was thinking about the customer base and where it's, so percentage-wise, customers, mainly the US?
Around 90%
Okay.
US.
Wow. Okay. Great.
Yeah. We cater to 50 million users, and our team is relatively small to how, the amount of customers that we have. There's only like 120 of us.
Right.
Big group here in Auckland. Our headquarters is still here I'm not in Auckland anymore.
No, you're in Wellington,
Yeah.
though. This is like the main place.
Up there. So our main headquarters is actually in Auckland, and we do have team members here in Wellington as well.
Oh, you do? Okay, cool.
And a good portion across the U.S., and a few of our team members are spread outside of the U.S. as well. So that's our team, and right now, 1 in 12 U.S. K-12 schools use Cammy. Again, like we started while we were in university. So we were just trying to solve our own problem, which is like we have these devices in our lecture theater. We just want to make our lectures more interactive and figure out a way how to make it more collaborative and just use our devices.
That's really interesting. So you found so Cammy was based on you solving your own pain point.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right. That's really interesting. And so Bob, being an adult Bob, also was like, these guys are onto something.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So the interactive piece, as we know, I mean, you're obviously now a mother as well, and I've got my kids walking around with their
Devices,
iPads and stuff.
yeah.
Actually, I think they swipe before they can pick up a spoon these days. But I think that's really interesting. So with the sort of interactive piece, did you tap into that a lot quicker than most? Because that sounds like you did. So tell me a bit about that.
Oh, that was our first year. So we were focusing in New Zealand universities because again, we were trying to solve our own problems. Unfortunately, we didn't grow as fast as we wanted to. So after that competition, we managed to raise 10,000 New Zealand dollars. Okay. And that lasted us a full year.
That's incredible.
Right?
Are you joking me?
Looking back, I don't know what kind of magic we did, but we made it happen.
That's good.
However, like after a year, we need more money. And unfortunately, the growth wasn't that good. And we went back to our investors and we're like, hey, we need to raise more money. But they're like, no, the growth isn't there.
Well, what did you need it for? When you were at that point, because we've got lots of sort of our early stage founders. So when you went back to them and said, we need money, what was it for? Was it to raise profile? Was it for the technology?
Yeah.
What was it at that point that you needed it for?
So at the beginning, it was just for us to survive because that's why the 10,000
Yeah,
worked for a whole year. Like, $10,000 for
There's
ramen.
only so many 1 minute noodles you can have.
Oh, absolutely. Fantastic. We tried all of them. But, we were doing side hustles as well just to, make it survive. But for the next round, it's like, okay, we can't continue doing this. We need more funding. Unfortunately, they immediately said, no, the traction is not good enough, blah, blah, blah. And then we literally have probably like a month or two to figure things out before we just like, shall we just end it? Shall we just like move on from it? And we're like, look, we have nothing to lose. what we did was we launched a web app version of, it was called Notable during that time. We launched a web version on the Chrome web apps.
Right.
So it was open for everybody to use. So that was our first pivot. Within overnight, we've gained like 5,000 users within, a couple of months. But like that showed us that there is a need for something like this.
Yeah.
And we weren't very familiar with this ecosystem during that time. We know of it, but we didn't know the needs that comes along with it, because we did that, and then we came back to our investors like, hey, look, we got something here. We have a variety of users trying to use our product. We have teachers, we have professionals, we have doctors, we have everybody trying to use it. Because our first version, Notable, it's more like Adobe Acrobat.
Oh, I see.
But cheaper. So it's like a PDF annotation, right? Yep. And we did ask our early users, why did you install the product? What are you using it for? Some of the buttons don't work. We don't even have a sign out button. And like, why are you using it? And they would give us high rating as well, which is shocking.
So why were they using it? What was it that they liked about it? They would be able to write all over stuff, or what was it they liked?
Exactly. Like during that time, they just needed something to annotate on top of a PDF, but they don't want to pay for an Acrobat.
Yeah.
Right? They just something basic, easy to use. That's it. Does the job. So that's why we're like, hey, there's something here.
Yeah.
And when we talked to our investors that helped us raise, I forgot how much we raised, but we raised enough for us to continue doing what we're trying to do and investigate further.
So were you looking at the different verticals at that point and seeing which one would stick?
Yeah.
Right.
And that raise lasted us probably 2 to 3 years.
Okay.
Again, just constantly catering to all these verticals, right?
Right.
I was selling to big luxury hotel groups, to doctors, to lawyers, so everyone. So this is when around 2016, 2017, when we decided, look, we got to focus on just one industry.
Yeah.
And we got very lucky because we got a grant from Education New Zealand to do an R&D. And we used that to go attend our very first edtech trade show.
Interesting. Okay.
Because we do know there were a lot of teachers using the product, but we know that they're not paying. It was the professionals who were paying, the hotel groups are paying, like everyone else is paying except for the teachers. But there's a lot of them coming in.
That's really interesting because you hear a lot of people talk about the verticals that they'll start at, and they'll start at the ones that they know are going to pay.
Yes.
Right. But what you've done is you've gone and actually looked at, you've gone the other way.
Yes.
Interesting. Why do you think you did that though? Is it because you had the grant and you had the R&D and you kind of could do a deep dive and understand the why?
Yeah.
And do you think that's why, or did you feel there was a real purpose-driven thing that perhaps?
This was actually the turning point when we went to our first trade show, we were actually raising our second seed, I would call, and we were telling our potential investors, look, we're trying to figure out where we're going to focus, which industry, but we're just going to this first trade show, and we'll figure it out. The funniest thing, we had the most unexpected call while we're that morning before our first show. I'll tell you more about that later. But so we're at the show, and again, we have no idea about education. We don't know how to sell to them, but we just want to meet the users. So we ended up emailing a couple of existing users. Hey, is there a chance you'll be in this show? We'll be here. We would love to meet you. We came all the way from New Zealand. We'd love to meet you. And we did meet a lot of them, and a lot of them stopped by the booth. And a couple of them are crying. They're like, I love your product.
Crying,
tears. And
because what do you think that was? Do you think that's because you had hit the right mark for these, because you're solving the problem that they have been?
Yes, absolutely.
So you're like you're taking away the teacher mental load.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you nailed it, because they were telling us like, you saved me so much time.
Right.
I've been wanting this for so long. And then we're like, what is happening here? Because again,
Right.
our product during that time, looking back at it, it wasn't the most perfect product. We're missing a lot of features. Some of them are kind of, but it does its job, right? And we continued having that conversation with them. It's like, tell us more. Like, how does, during that time, notable, you fit in your classroom? How do you use it? How often do you use it? What do you mean it changes your life?
Right.
Like, and they were telling us, schools during that time started getting Chromebook devices,
Okay.
and all these Chromebook devices, they're quite cheap, but like it's a big investment from the schools. And curriculum providers and publishers would then give them digital copy of the curriculum, or they would have all these resources in digital format. So what they ended up doing is printing off those digital.
They did,
They
right.
printed it off, and they spent so much time
Right.
and money printing off all those resources, giving it to the kids, and then the kids would use it, do things with it, and then they would scan it back. You have to scan it page by page, put it back digitally, and grade it or do whatever. And
Yep.
so there was a
'Cause
missing thing.
Because I would say that would be them just thinking this is how it's going to have to work.
Yes.
Like as a teacher, they are not going, how am I going to try and solve this problem?
They wouldn't have the time
I
to even
know.
think. Yeah.
So they're just kind of making it work
Yes.
and kind of trying to evolve with the times.
Yeah.
Right. And then what you've done is gone, hang on a second,
We got
we've got
Yeah.
this for you. So no wonder they were crying.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
the trees were, after all the
Yeah.
photocopying, I wouldn't say they're the only industry, by the way,
Oh,
that were probably
yeah.
having issues. But that's interesting.
And throughout the years, we learn more about that pain
Yeah.
point because we do a lot of school visits. That gets us closer to them and understanding more of who they are, what they do every day, what are those problems that they encounter that we can solve. But during that time, them explaining to us that this is what we do, and then now that Notable or Cammy is there, we use it to do everything. So it's now this bridge between the traditional ways of how they do things, which is physical resources, to like transitioning it to being digital and online. So this was around 2016, 2017, right? And there's nothing that does that. Adobe Acrobat don't work on Chromebooks.
Yeah,
And-
true.
And if they do, it will be very expensive. But during that time, nothing works well for the teacher's needs. Again, like after that show, we went back home, and we just reflected on the people that we've met and everything that we've learned. And we gathered the team, which is 5 of us, mostly interns.
Around the kitchen table. Love
Mostly
it.
interns, and we had the walls covered with some manila paper and wrote down all the possible ways we could go forward.
Right.
We have the hotels, the doctors,
Yeah.
the lawyers. We have a lot of lawyers using the product as well, and the teachers. And they were just standing there, and again, we were like, this is a no-brainer. We got to do education. But the biggest question mark on that paper is like, how do we sell?
Right.
Oh, we'll figure it out.
But when you said the
yeah.
no-brainer piece, and I'm sorry to kind of really
Yes,
delve in on that,
go
because
for
I
it.
don't think that is a no-brainer. I think there's a lot about the values of the 5 people around that
Yeah.
table and the people that you are and the problem that you felt that you were still solving from when
Yeah.
you sat in that lecture theatre.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the people would be like, no-brainer, investors want us to go down that route with
Yes.
the lawyers because they're going to pay 8
Yeah.
times the amount.
Yeah.
So I think that I just wanted to kind of touch on that
Oh,
because that's a lot, and that probably says a lot about your values within Cammy and what
Yes.
you're trying to achieve with the people you bring on
Yeah.
and the way you're working really closely. For those that are listening to the podcast today, it's really interesting though, because I think a lot of people push you in the direction of where's your revenue going to come from.
Yeah, absolutely.
So did you ever sort of second guess that choice of that vertical? I mean, did you ever go, oh God, now we don't know how to sell this and we're going to have to
Yeah.
make it cheap and cheerful and
Oh, maybe we're just young and naive.
young and naive? It's always
But-
beautiful.
You got it, because it's our value. And again, having that opportunity to actually talk to teachers in person and understand, what they're feeling, their emotions. We felt it. So we're kind of biased after that trade show. But
Yeah.
again, like for us, we're thinking, okay, we can build this product with the most basic tools, and we would make so much difference in all these millions of teachers and students. Versus, what if we focus on lawyers? We're going to compete with X amount of competitors.
True.
We're going to keep building all these like really advanced features, which again, like there's only 5 of us and like technically 2 people kind of
I
developing.
guess you'd already sort of solved their problem if they're bursting into tears.
Yeah, exactly, with the minimal
Okay,
work.
that makes a lot of sense.
And if we focus more on improving those things and doing better, and also building more tools to help them.
Yeah.
Like for us, I think our belief is that we have been product-led company, right? If the product is great, the money will follow. That's always been our thing. And Hingy and Jordan, they're like amazing product guys.
Yeah.
And they know how to nail it. They know how to really build that product. And my job is to figure out the rest. So again, maybe naivety, but also like we love a good challenge, right? Like this path might sound clear in a way that, hey, we can make money off this, we can do these and charge them more, but that's no fun. Like we want something that actually makes us excited to wake up and actually do it.
Well, it gives you purpose, right? Like I think, I wouldn't say naive, I think you had really strong instincts. Yep. And I think so often, maybe as a female founder or just generally we don't tap in nearly enough to some of those instincts that you're like, actually this is not going to, it's going to make me feel really great when I wake up in every morning. And when somebody says, what do I do? I'm going to be really proud of what I say, what I do. And I think that's kudos to you and going, actually, let's go this direction, which I think is fantastic. A lot of the people that are turning up at Electrify this week, right, to listen to you particularly and to others around, are they coming to you and asking you these types of questions around, and I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but about the quick decision making that needs to happen, the mistakes that are made, the instincts that you had, the great team that you had. What sort of things are you hearing from the Electrified team? But more importantly, what are you going to talk about at your keynote today to kind of get people excited and pass on your massive amount of wisdom? So
I think the main thing that made us survive, I felt like people, when they see what we've done 2020 to 2023, they're like, that's amazing, what a sheer luck. It's like, no, we've been preparing this since 2013. We've been building this foundation that we know is very important, is a necessity, and we're just building it along. And it just so happens that this thing happened and then the whole world realized that we haven't been investing in education.
Such a good point, because you had, it's not luck. You had been working really hard to get yourself to this point. Does it sounded a bit annoying that there was a pandemic at the time, but it did actually then really make sure that people understood the why you're doing it, because this was going to happen anyway.
Yes.
Right.
But you want to be purposeful of what you do as well. So when that happened, like we were ready in those schools in the US with the devices and the setup, they were ready. But those who weren't, they're the ones who struggled. So you mentioned like our team, everybody became like customer service because we just needed to help millions of teachers onboard them. A lot of them haven't even used much online.
Well, that's
anything.
What we were finding from a personal experience. Right. There are teachers that they didn't know how to use OneNote or Google Classroom or anything.
So a lot of the customer servicing is not actually about the product. It's actually helping them like do this, open that, and then you can go on to Cammy. So 2020 to 2023, just a quick snap. We were 7 million users around 2020. By the end of 2023, we were around 40 million. And there were weeks wherein, we would be celebrating 1 million signups every 2 weeks to every week.
Wait, Alliv, didn't you have a baby at this time as well?
Oh yeah, I was on maternity leave.
Oh my God. Okay, so that just dropped into my head. I was like, I remember you saying, so you were just on maternity. Okay, there was no maternity. There's no maternity leave.
What is that for a founder? Unfortunately, but
no, that's okay.
And there was a moment when we had like 1 million signups a day. Like it sounds great, but again, it's just imagining like you have this building with say 1 million people capacity, and you need to build another building within a day to support another 1 million people in your building. So that's the infrastructure that, Jordan, my CTO, just make the magic happen, right? He made this impossible thing, because again, we've seen other edtech startups thrive and grow, but a lot of them struggled and collapsed because they couldn't keep up with growth. And I think that was the thing that made us successful and survived by the end of 2023, because one, we have the great infrastructure, we have the great architecture in our product, all these fundamental, like foundational things we've done really well. But also the people side, there was only like less than 20 of us, and again, we were all ready to help because everybody shares the same value and everybody understands what's the purpose of our being, right? We know we're here to help teachers. So no brainer, like I would stop what I'm doing and help the teachers.
Right.
And, early on when all the lockdowns started happening around the world, we ended up giving away Cammy for free.
That's right. I remember you saying that.
Yeah.
Listen, I am so excited because I'm going to come to Electrify today, but I can't wait to hear the next part of the journey. I've got one final question, because it's one that kind of has been, I guess, one of the conversations we're having a lot at the moment is around the evolution of technology. And of course, everyone's talking about AI and everyone's talking, and I'm speaking to Contented and I'm speaking to others and stuff. What does that look like from a classroom perspective? Like, what is the evolution for Cammy, AI, and the contribution that you're looking at from your product development perspective?
One fun fact about Cammy is that Sam Altman is one of our early investors.
It's a great fun fact, by the way.
Great fun fact. And he's been fantastic at helping us, especially the early days. We would just pick his brain. Again, like those trips would be like meeting some of our, American contacts and investors and just picking their brain on certain things. How we see AI in the classroom is that, again, our goal is to help the teacher. We're not going to start flashing AI just because it's the trendiest thing.
Correct, yeah.
AI for us is purposeful. We've done a couple of features that's AI driven, but it's very, thoughtful of like, how will the teachers use it? How will it help them? And it's not to replace them. I've heard a lot of edtech companies recently who were like, this is the future of teaching. Like, what do you mean? The teachers are the teachers. Like, you don't replace them, with AI. You use the AI to help them do their jobs well, to save them time, to help them, be their best selves in the classroom and not replace them. So for us, it's, we've seen a lot of AI companies pop everywhere. And again, they're just, flashy. This is a new AI technology. It's like, no, but the teachers are afraid of it. Because again, you're there to just get rid of them, which is like, that's the worst.
Well, I mean, there's those ridiculous taglines that people are going to be replaced by AI,
I've seen
right?
a lot of those taglines,
I mean, it's always nice when you can pick up the phone and speak to Sam and have a chat and ask what his thoughts are. But I think that's really interesting, because I think we've got to make sure that we're embracing it and working alongside the teachers.
Absolutely.
And also the kids need to be aware that the teachers are not sort of, we've got no idea what's happening in this regard, but, evolving your product and listening to the requirements from the teachers and understanding the global needs for what you do is incredible. I could talk to you all day. I could talk to you all day.
Yeah,
I am Cammy's number one fan. I am yours. I am so grateful that you took the time today to come and have a chat with us, with my flowers and my my boss lady candle.
I love the boss lady candle.
I've got rid of all the boys stuff. Listen, I'm going to follow behind and listen to your keynote today. I can't wait. Thank you so much. We're going to have to go back to Serge, and he's on the ground. You'll probably see him when you're there. But thank you so much for coming today, and we'll chat again soon.
All right. Hey, awesome conversation there, Adrienne. Here I am back at Electrify. With me is Justine McIntyre. You're a founder. Justine, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I am a co-founder of Injury Hub. I'm also previously an orthopaedic and injury care doctor, and through the gaps at the community that I saw with injury care access, I decided to live through my midlife crisis and start a startup. Electrify has basically been the bed to help me work out the capabilities to do that. And this is my third conference, and I'm very happy to be here.
Awesome. What do you like the most about Electrify as an event?
I think there's been really actionable and really valuable insights that the women that I've seen, the women founders who are a bit above sort of where we are or just coming through. And it's really inspiring and feels very supportive, and it gives me a visual of what I can achieve if I want to put my head to it.
Awesome. And what's next for you and Injury Hub?
So me and Injury Hub. So Injury Hub is expanding to the US.
Awesome.
We have 10 US clinics that we are going to pilot there, and us as a family and a company are going to move over to the US too to watch the Trump show.
Awesome. Well, watch out, America. Justine's coming for you. All right, well, back over to the studio. Adrienne, who's next?
Hey, thank you so much, Serge. I am bringing myself back to the studio, and in front of me I've got Kristen and Nat from PowerSuit. Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
How has it been? You were at
Fabulous.
Electrify this morning.
We've had a big morning.
You have had a big morning.
We were flapping around on that stage up there for a while, and backstage.
Oh yeah, I saw that, the whole backstage
Backstage
thing.
is terrifying.
Yeah.
Have you been backstage?
No, but I hear it's like got a green room type vibe to it that you
Yeah.
can get quite.
There was
Is
a
it
green room.
tense?
Yeah.
Lots of snacks.
Oh,
No wine, as per this situation.
I
No
know.
wine and no hair straighteners to recurl your hair after coming to
From
the
Wellington.
event in Wellington rain.
okay. So
Anyway.
I've got flowers and a boss lady candle because the boys are away. I've taken all the cars and all the dinosaurs off the table. Didn't bring the wine, did I? Sorry,
no,
girls.
it's disappointing, but we have
I should know
talked-
better.
Actually, the theme of today at Electrify was about making mistakes and learning from them and overcoming them.
And taking accountability for them.
I'm totally taking accountability.
Taking accountability and moving forward.
Note taken. No, I was actually trying to remember when
Blame
I first...
kills things.
Blame kills things. Well, actually, when I first met you, I think I had a pair of reindeer ears on and a very large white wine at a SAS Christmas party.
Christmas party. I was like,
Yeah.
I need to know this woman.
And
Who
I was like-
wears reindeer ears? And you had, from what I recall,
Bright red, wasn't I? I
Yep.
think I looked like Santa.
you look
No, you look
pretty
like
amazing.
a reindeer, I would hope.
Oh my god! I don't even know what I was aiming for, but I was definitely. People were like, who's she? What's she doing?
No, you were on fire,
Was-
and I grabbed
You know what she's asking for. You know what she's asking
Am I hot?
for.
You were
Was I-
hot
was
and
she
you were
hot or was
fun.
she fun?
Yeah, she was both. I usually say to people, "Gosh, you look amazing," or I say, "Oh my gosh, you're so much fun. I need to know you." And she got fun zoned. And however, in retrospect, I'm like, she actually did look hot.
Okay, good,
she
good,
looked incredible. So I grabbed you and I brought you over to Nat, and I said, "We're going to be friends. This is
It's
someone
true,
we
and here
need
we
to know."
are.
And here
And
we
then
are.
we obviously, Nat, we've met a couple of times, and I was thinking about this morning, which is we won't talk about names exactly, but it does sort of nicely tie into what we might be talking about. You and I have been doing some work, as you have as well, you know, helping sort of some of our founders here in Wellington, and that's obviously now further up in Auckland. And we were laughing because all the boys, I think there's a couple of girls in this group, but, you know, our females. And Nat and I got put in the people and culture group, weren't we? And so all these lovely
Would we
founders
call
turned
it a
up.
group?
Well, you can't call it a group when no one turns up. We were like, what the hell? It was a really interesting view on, as we say, unconscious bias. So like the women will know about people and culture. You're a product person. Yeah. I'm a fintech founder. Like it was, I mean, I'm not saying I don't, because I think we naturally
We could have winged it.
Totally winged it.
Winged it.
But you were women, and you're better at soft skills. So
Oh, yeah.
just stick to the.
It was
Script.
funny. It
Yeah.
was, and we really bonded over that because I think our personality types matched on we weren't going to let that one slide. We were drinking wine then.
We were
and
drinking
we were
wine
able
then.
to say, "Excuse me."
Yeah. And then we gate crashed the boys, and we sort of sat there and gave our own sort of points of view.
so fun.
Which is great.
No
And
advice, though.
I should add, it has never happened again.
We make mistakes. We take accountability.
or
we learn.
we force accountability.
They will
and
learn.
blame.
I don't think they will do it again. You're quite right. Now tell me, there are a lot of our listeners who wouldn't have been able to make it to Electrify today, which is such a shame. But everyone in there is having the best time. Like it's standing room only. Like actually, when I came in with you guys, there were people kind of hanging out the doors and stuff, which is great. But for those who didn't kind of get the opportunity, tell me a little bit about what you were talking about today and what sort of feedback you got. I'd love to know a bit more about it.
I think we should just give credit, first of all, to Marian Johnson, who
Totally.
is fabulous. And she was the one, I think 2 years ago, got an email in our inbox that said, "You both are fabulous. I think you should come on this Ministry of Awesome Electrify Accelerator because it is going to be just for women, focused on women. We know that women need exceptional tools, exceptional community, because we have so many barriers in our way, both in our professional careers, but also starting startups. And so the fact that she was this incredible trailblazer in this community, shining a light on, some of the barriers in our way and brought us together. So I just want to give credit to her. Not only did she do that, but then she did this conference and brought all of us together in a room. So
actually, I just saw her about 20 minutes ago holding someone's back and walking them through and introducing to someone. She's still
incredible.
She's a boss.
It's like
She's
a
a boss.
giant girls' club in there. Like all around that street in the last 2 days, it's just been shrieks and hugs because you just bump into all these epic women. And often they're people you haven't seen in a couple of years.
Yeah.
You go in there, everyone's chatting, hugging, and even someone on the stage was like, it was Steve from KiwiBank, who's just announced some really interesting stuff, saying it's such a different vibe. And it is. It's just like this incredible, she's done amazing. Actually, the whole team has done amazing with that.
Totally agree. So what were you
what were you
wanting
doing?
to what were you trying to get across?
Well, funnily enough, we were asked to talk about risk, which is something we are very well familiar with.
Correct.
And one of the things that we often get told as women and founders is that women are more risk averse. And that's one of the things that really holds us back. So the point we wanted to get across on the stage was not only are we actually really, really good at risk awareness, which is quite different. We're not head in the sand. We're really weighing stuff up. But we need to do more of it. We need to do more of it because we often overlook the long-term risks when we're weighing up our risk assessments and focusing fully on the short-term risks of embarrassment or these mistakes like not bringing wine, all of that sort of stuff, and against the long-term and forgetting those long-term risks of what happens if we let fear stop us.
Right.
So we just spent 15 minutes talking about that after spending 2 days feeling terrified in the lead up and going, we are talking about exactly this emotion that we're experiencing right now.
That's so important. And so what sort of feedback were you getting from people post that? Because I do want us to be talking about the things that we're not talking about. And risk, you're quite right, is that one of those. I often hear that risk sort of weighed up with sort of, dare I say, intuition. And intuition's not used nearly enough sometimes as well in terms of actually that gut feel comes with experience.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes there might be that risk aversion, but it comes from maybe a bit of experience.
Yeah.
And actually, again, it's another that kind of male sort of female balance of words that we're using. So tell me about what people were looking for and what you felt in terms of afterwards people were saying to you.
This is always the most frightening part when you're trying to develop a talk that lands. And that is something because Marian again said, she was like, you are giving. We're like, we know we're giving. The pressure to give is immense because you have 400 or 500 people in front of you, and you want them to leave, for us all being about power suit and action, we want them to leave with something tangible that they have to do. So that was the first fear, was are they going to relate to the message? Because when you're talking about risk and you have a room full of founders who are taking very
risk.
real risk,
Yeah.
you're like, oh my gosh. However, we were able to discern the differences. And so the great thing was immediately got off, had incredible feedback. We saw LinkedIn, tagged in LinkedIn posts, Bridget from the Angel Association honored what we'd done, which was amazing. And then I've just noticed we've sidled up to people, either sat down or been on a morning tea, and they're like, I needed to hear that today, which is what you're always looking for, because it's not about us. It is about us creating a movement of women taking steps, taking back control of their startups, of their careers, and the fact that that was, mirrored back to us after the fact was like, oh my gosh, thank goodness. And then I was like, I need a wine.
Damn it, again.
It's a real theme.
The Plonkcast. I'm going to get that up and running. So what does it, that when you talked about the piece where it had to land, particularly for that group, they were there and they've drunk the Kool-Aid, right? They're certainly there, but sometimes they just need to hear it, because it's a really lonely role sometimes as a founder or a CEO or a woman in business. And I think sometimes I found that just kind of wandering around, people were just really keen to sort of talk about what they were doing. And I had a few people saying, I haven't really got much of a startup, but I'll tell you a little bit about it. I'm like, I want to hear all of it. Tell me everything about it. Then I was like, I love what you've just done. I think it's amazing what you're doing. Like, I think that's a part where having the opportunity to talk in those groups and feel really safe is spot on. And that's what I'm loving, what Marianne's created with Electrify, which is great, right? What is it you feel that we're not talking enough about, though, Nat, when you're going to those events? Like, I think we're talking about risk and we're talking about things. When you're talking to the groups that you're talking to female founders, and people on this podcast will be listening to get the nuggets of things that we are talking about, wine mainly. What do you think we're not talking about enough? Because I talk a lot about the co-founder relationship. I'll talk a little bit about the leadership requirements and the soft skills that we need sometimes, and also the fear of failure and the failures that we make. I mean, I can talk a lot about failure as a founder.
It's our job.
Yeah, it's our job, right? So what do you reckon?
What are we not talking about?
What are we not talking about?
I actually think I've been pondering this for the last couple of weeks. And was it you who told me about the Diary of a CEO podcast? No, it was someone else. They interviewed this woman and he just couldn't quite wrap his head around her business goals. He's like, is it growth? Is it? And she's like, I want to create a profitable business that looks after my people and makes us all wealthy and serves its purpose. And he's like, but where's the growth?
Yep.
And she's like, and since I heard that, I've been thinking a lot about we have been raised and live in a world where there is just one very narrow definition of success and one very narrow definition of how we get things done. And most of us in that room don't fit into that definition. So the example you just gave of women going, I've got this tiny little, that is fine. You're allowed to talk like that. That is because it is a tiny little scrappy thing. It's just we've grown up in a world where you have to pretend it's this big successful thing because that's the one way to show what you're doing. And so I think one of the biggest challenges in the career workforce and in startup land, we do not know how to identify talent, skill, ambition, and confidence when it doesn't look like that one very narrow definition. And it means companies are missing out, economies are missing out, but also a lot of us are missing out and second guessing ourselves.
Yeah, that's really true. It's really interesting because I've had the opportunity today to speak to a number of women, and I had Alliv from Cammy talking as well. And when she was talking about the different verticals that she was looking at, she said, I really wanted to pivot into looking at edtech because I knew it was really important. And I was like, yeah, it's quite purposeful. It's something that she knew that she could wake up in the morning and feel really proud of. But to your point around that, the previous podcast you're talking about, it's like, well, hang on a second, you pivot to the vertical with the most money. You focus on the shareholder return. I'm not saying that's not important, but what I find a common denominator quite often when I'm talking to these incredible women and women-led businesses is they are actually really purpose-led, and they're often led with the way of, okay, what will make everyone around me feel like they're contributing also. So, I mean, I'm really interested to hear
We're big fans of money, by the way. Like, I don't want to be confused with, like, it's all about purpose because money is important and power is important. Like, women should be in more of those positions of power and influence. This is not that discussion, but it is that thing about just recognizing that if you want to be an entrepreneur and start something, you tend to be doing it because you're obsessed with a problem. And sometimes that traditional path to success means you actually can't care about that problem anymore. The only thing you're allowed to care about is the profit and the money and the growth. And you move so far away from the reason you even started to do it, which I think we don't like. Yeah. A lot of women don't like that path. So,
well, I mean, it's interesting because you guys have pivoted, right? You guys with Hatch and you worked together and you were really, helping us get a really clear understanding around financial markets and empowerment. And now with PowerSuit, that's a kind of pivot as well. Working together previously and just watching how you interact with each other and even just laughing about how you just solved one of your problems about something with I mean, you guys are incredible, but sometimes it doesn't work all the time for everybody. What is it? I mean, I'm not asking you the secret sauce. Is it just, are you like,
do you know what
is it?
I was thinking about it yesterday, and I think we work very similarly and have a couple of core values that are shared, but then we're equally different and have different values. So there's always misunderstandings based on those different values, but the most important things are shared. So I was thinking about this yesterday, and I think that we have a couple of really key values that are shared, like really shared. We care about the problem deeply, but then we have values that aren't shared, and that's okay. That can create misunderstanding and conversation. But the things that are shared are the most important of all. So first of all, we care about the problem deeply. And I think for any women, that's where purpose comes from, is you see something needs to be solved and you turn it into a business. And that is success. That is your definition of success. It doesn't need to fit into, VC funding or Uber growth or hockey stick growth or taking over the world. If it does, amazing. That is your problem to be solved, and go for it. But for us, we came together on something we first of all identified with a problem, which is women are effectively overlooked when it comes to, economic, workplace, startup optimization. Like, we are absolutely underutilized, and as a result, we're trying to close all the gaps. With Power Suit specifically, the leadership gap. How do we get more women into positions of power and influence? So that's where Power Suit came out. Care very much about the problem. But our shared values is that, I don't know, it's almost a commitment to the mission. Like if you wake up and you're not feeling great, or if you've had a bad day, or if you need a holiday and you're tired, or there's all these things that happen. But if you still wake up and you're so committed to the mission, then you're kind of going to be okay as a co-founder. And then we also have other shared values when it comes to like how we operate.
I think there's two other things. One is we have quite a similar sense of humor.
Yeah.
So like you might notice Kristen is wearing barrel jeans.
I noticed.
And in Sydney, these barrel jeans are a journey. Like she mentioned someone was wearing some, she wanted to get some. So
You are
next
rocking
minute,
them.
I'm like standing outside this changing room at David Jones and she's in there coming out in and out and I'm like, oh, I like those ones. Oh, not those ones. Oh, this one. And then this other woman is like trying on jeans and I'm like, those look good. And then this other woman's like, hey, could you check out my coat? And Kristen comes out, she's like, perfect coat. And like we have that kind of sense of humor and fun. But the other thing that I think really is we like each other, like and we really respect each other, and so when we disagree, there is this underlying and almost unshakable sense of, but I back you. And I think, and then the final thing that I think is really critical for us is it wasn't that long ago that I had someone publicly talk about an abusive situation in my life, naming me and my abuser. Awful. Kristen was my first call and immediately within minutes had looked up all my legal, all the legal processes, all the things I could do. 120% of my team would drop anything to fix it. And I think that's a really, like, people often ask, how do you meet a good founder? And I'm like, don't do what we did. We kind of came together randomly, but there's some magic there that is day to day, stressful, hard. And I think disagreement is important because otherwise if we agreed on everything, we'd get nowhere or we'd get to the wrong place. But underneath all that is just this unshakable, like, I really like you and I really respect you. And we always say now we're stronger together. Like, I think we both agree that we build on each, and we're quite comfortable working in that way. Like, one of us will start something and we'll both work on it. And there's no offense at, like, even this talk, you started it and then we got together and ripped it apart and did it. And there's no like, oh, it's my precious thing. It's just like stronger together.
And actually, by the way, you can really tell that. I mean, that's what you're here as well. I mean, you are seen very much as a duo. There's, which I think is incredible.
We're not in a romantic relationship.
No, I always have to say that when Nat's like my girlfriend. I was like, that's not me. Not me. Not me. But you know what? The value just came to mind, and it's work ethic. Nat and I have an unshakable, and that's why when you have a problem you care about and you have work ethic, that is so core. So I'm like, that's the thing. Maybe that's the problem to be solved. Like this test of like how, values. Do you share values? Same expectations. Because well, you may not know. No one may not know. But when I was early in my 20s, there was a thing called marriage counselling that you did before you got married.
Right.
Did you know that?
Well, the Catholics do that, and I got married.
I was not Catholic.
But they did it here in New Zealand.
Okay.
I was not great
I think
at
a
it.
lot of religions do it.
Yeah.
I was not Catholic, but we did get married in a Christian church.
Okay.
And so you do have to go through marriage counselling. Yeah. And you have to do these for the first time. It was actually quite amazing. You have to fill out these forms where you're like, who's going to put out the garbage? How often are you going to clean? Do you want children? How many? Who's going to pay the bills? Who's going to budget the bloody blah? And you basically, for the first time in your life, both couples came together and were like, how different is this? So I'm like, just saying that could be a co-founder thing too.
I know a bunch of people who did that, by the way, in New Zealand, and more often than not, it sounded like they were like, whoa, okay.
And then post-marriage, when people are like, who knew? He doesn't like cleaning. And I was like, dude, like, I don't know. We got to figure that stuff out before.
But it probably is. And I actually do remember very early on at Hatch, we have different communication styles. I'm a blah, 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 and I'll figure out if I believe it as it comes out of my mouth. And so I would bombard Kristen. I'd be like, yes, blah, blah. And very early on, you were brave enough to say, I don't think like you. I need a minute to go away and process when we have these conversations. And when you come at me, you didn't say come at me, but when you do that, I get defensive. And I was like,
that's so important.
And I think we've kind of kept that going since of like, oh, when you do that, this like, and it's often unintentional. Like we're both we're moving so fast. We often...
But that's a sign of a good relationship, right? And that's
Yeah.
the thing, again, we're not talking enough about. And that's a really good point, because sometimes we kind of go into these executive teams or whatever it is, and you do communicate differently. My co-founder, when I was in London, was totally different in terms of the way that he would need to understand, react, etc. And it took me a little bit to get that, and then I had to communicate it and vice versa.
Yeah.
And I think it's important. But sometimes, again, back to the old marriage count. I mean, the last time I did a podcast, we talked about marriage. It's a little bit the same, isn't it? Like, what's a prenup?
It is
blah, blah, blah.
it's an intense
But
relationship.
it is an intense relationship.
Yeah.
And Serge will bring that up quite often. He'll be talking about it. He'll say things like, quite often he'll talk to people who've just come together as founders and say, have you talked about this? So I think that's super interesting, right? But the communication thing is really important. What else are you hearing, like when you're talking to the girls and the women and the young, because I saw the Wellington East Girls School were there. What are they asking you? Because I think it's kind of cool that it's good to see these young girls are rocking up to these events. What are they thinking, do you think?
Can I do this? Or I can do this, actually, more powerfully. I can do this. And this is something, when I was their age, wasn't a thing. Silicon Valley was bubbling away.
True.
We'd had dot-com bubble 1.0, Silicon 1.0 way back when, and there were not women in the picture. And so that wasn't something you graduated from uni and you were like, oh yeah, I can do this. That just wasn't even an option. So the fact that there are rooms of hundreds of women now that are doing really cool things. Really cool things. I mean, incredible. They can now walk in and go, there's a representation, right? I can be what I can see. And so I'm hoping they can say, I can do this too.
I think a while ago I went to an event and afterwards one of the organisers was like, oh, you need to meet my daughter. She's 25 and she works in this role. And I just had this total light bulb moment of this is the first generation ever where we have a mother and daughter in the workforce at the same time. Yeah. And at Electrify, I just bumped into one of your daughter's friends, that really fabulous, she does the YES program. And I've met her like 3 times.
So true.
And I was like, isn't that interesting that you are effectively still in high school, but we have enough of these events that I can bump into, you and I meet and know each other. And some of those younger girls, it was probably their first time, but someone roped us in, Nicole from Pam and I, and was come and talk to them, and just quickly like 3 bits of advice and kind of broke the ice and said, connect with us on LinkedIn. Everyone here wants you to succeed, and you have this powerhouse group of people who are motivated to open doors for you.
That's a really important point. I mean, in terms of nuggets, like connect with people on LinkedIn, and it's great. I can imagine Nicole dragging you across the room to go and see somebody. But you're right. I'm seeing this next generation flood through. I'm taking my friends' daughters to the Woman in Poniki events to meet other co-founders, to see that it's possible. And I'm not doing it to be sort of massively patronising, because she's an incredible young girl who's at university and going to be incredibly successful. But I do want her to be in an environment where she's seeing really successful women have really meaningful conversations about their future.
Do you know what I think is really important, actually, for this, now that I think about it, is we are rewiring the definition of success for this next generation. Because when now let's think Silicon Valley, there was one way to be successful, which was you go, you scale, you get VC investment, you fail. Doesn't matter. You're one of the portfolio, just one of the many, many, many that fail and move fast and break things. And so that is the recipe that was delivered to us, and we're breaking the mold. And so you hear in the room today success in all its forms, people up with babies on them, or building businesses with babies or their families or with their fathers. And we don't have to be, again, all global. So I think what they're also seeing is we are smashing the whole unicorn theory, which is startup theater, because very few reach that state. And if they do, I'm sorry, it is luck. It is absolute luck. And most of us aren't going to reach that. So I love that Maslow hierarchy of needs, is that what are our needs? What are your own personal needs? What job is your business doing for you? And just back yourself to do just that. You don't have to fit in other people's molds.
Well, who said it was better to start 1,000 person company than 10, 100 people companies? No one, like the maths is the same. In fact, actually the impact is much bigger, and probably the economy benefits a lot more from it. But I think one of the things that we've realized very quickly through PowerSuit is we all look for tangible barriers. Like we go, why don't women succeed as high rates as men in the workforce? Why are they not as visible in these senior leadership roles? Oh, it's because they take career breaks. Oh, it's because they're not speaking up in meetings. And it's never that. It's always these really small little nudges we get through our lives. And they're always just little hints or cues to say you don't belong here, and those are the most impactful things. And so I think going to Electrify and having these conversations, and Simran Kaur said the same thing. She started a podcast and she surrounded herself with people who'd started podcasts to normalize it. So it just felt like everyone was doing it. And when we all grew up, it wasn't normal. Whereas this generation, it feels more normal. They go into the room and everyone's doing it, and it's not feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm a fish out of water trying to figure out for the first time or in a different way, how do I make this work? It's just normal now. Just go and do it.
It's so true. I mean, one of the things I spoke to one of the young girls, and she asked me something along the lines of, what do you need? And I was like, please just tap into your natural aptitude. What are you actually really good at? And it's kind of important for someone like, she's like, well, what are you doing? And I was like, I wasn't the smartest person at school, and I crawled my way through university, probably at the local pub more than I was at university in many ways. But here's what I was really good at. I was good at getting stuff done. I was good at understanding problems. I was good at breaking them down. And that was what I was good at. I said, what are you good at? And that was a part of the conversation. She was like, I haven't really thought about that.
Do you know what? I love that you said that, because we always talk about strengths at PowerSuit, and we make everyone do a strengths test, and we go, that's amazing. You are naturally good at that. These are, in your aptitude wheelhouse. However, what is the thing that you love to do? And we often call that your superpower. So double down on that and let people know, make it part of your personal brand, that this is something I love to do. So we're huge fans of strengths tests. There's one called High Five, and that is free, and you can figure those out. And then you can reflect on, of this list, or maybe I can ask a bunch of people, what do you think I'm amazing at? What do you think I excel at? You will then get to know that, because we don't often think about it. And the second thing I want to add is just AI. Like, don't be afraid to, my son is looking at different options, daughter's in uni, but my son is not quite clear what pathway for, he thinks business, but not quite sure. So I got an AI assistant to develop an aptitude test. I was like, we don't quite know this. Can you just develop this aptitude test? This is the context. It was 15 questions. And it basically, the other night, we defined what my son is going to do at uni.
Yeah, there you go.
So use AI and take these tests, even if just to start the reflection. And is this a fit for what I want to do? Because he might have been like, I'm going to do Wall Street and private equity. And I was like, dude, you don't like maths. So let's do this. And guess what he's good at? Entrepreneurship and sales.
There you
go.
I was like, yeah, there you go. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree, does it?
Yeah.
Now, listen, if people are trying to know more about PowerSuit and what else you're doing, where do we send them? Which direction am I putting them in?
Two very easy options. LinkedIn. Find us on LinkedIn. Yep. Our name is spelled POWR. We've cut the E, PowerSuit. So go to powersuit.com as well. And that is where you've got three other very easy ways to connect with us. Sign up to our newsletter, subscribe to that. It's now fortnightly because we are being ruthless with prioritization.
Love it.
But fortnightly career tips, one topic every fortnight, in depth, with one action. So you'll get a real taste of PowerSuit. Same goes with our podcast. Well, we probably in our podcast talk a little bit more behind the scenes analysis of how we're growing the business as well as the stuff that we're doing. But the biggest and most impactful thing you can do is tap into your professional development budget and come and become a member of our Career Accelerator for a year. It's $500 or $49 a month. It's next to nothing. Get it from your employer. It is money that is owed to you that we often leave on the table.
So true.
And get weekly nudges with fabulous other women and grow your skills, grow your capabilities, grow your network, one little nudge at a time that is really tangible, really practical, and takes your career forward and gets you where you want to go.
Totally agree. Guys, love PowerSuit. Love you.
We love you.
Oh my God, no. Love you more.
No.
Oh my word. Like fangirl. Okay.
You're hot and fun.
I'm definitely making sure I take you guys out for wine after this. Thank you so much for joining us, because I know you're busy.
Thanks,
I know you've got the podcast as well, and I really
We're
appreciate it.
not busy. We prioritise now.
You're prioritising me today. That's great. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Well, thanks, Adrienne. Great conversation over there at the podcast studio. Well, here I am with Emily Mabin Sutton. You're here at Electrify. Tell us a little bit about why you're here.
Thanks, Serge. I'm here to learn more about how to do sales, scale, and build my business.
Perfect. And what is your business? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I run climate trainings for a variety of businesses, councils, organisations across Aotearoa.
Cool. And what do you see as the possibility for your business? So if you're training these organisations, how big can it be? How big can your impact be?
It could be massive, and a lot of it is just getting the word out about what we're doing and actually working out how to communicate the value that we've been offering to lots of orgs.
Awesome. What's been the highlight so far of Electrify?
Ooh, just the mass of women starting businesses in New Zealand. It's been really exciting to see how many wahine founders are actually out there.
Yeah, so inspiring. And if you come back next year, what do you think will be different or new about you and Climate Club?
Ooh, I guess hopefully we will have doubled like the room and like the number of people in the room.
That'd be amazing if we do that. All right. Thank you very much for joining us. All right. Well, I'm here with Maddie. Maddie, I saw you last year at Electrify, so you've come back. How come you've come back?
Launchbot's doing really well, so we do your marketing for you. We launched in earnest 8 weeks ago, and we've had 14 customers since then.
That's amazing. And so tell us a little bit more about what marketing you do for whom?
We do small business marketing. We're an AI tool that looks at your data and then targets your marketing towards your paying customers to grow your business really fast.
Awesome. And so you're Electrify again. You were here yesterday. You sat at the VC
Speed dating.
Speed dating, yeah. Okay, I wasn't sure what it's called.
That's what they
so you did
told
some
us it was
VC
called.
speed dating. What did you get out of that?
It was so awesome. Everyone was incredibly kind. We got told to increase our raise estimate by 3, so triple our number, which is a really awesome thing for a woman founder to hear. So it was really exciting and super encouraging.
Great. And we might see you at Electrify next year. What do you think will be different? What will you have achieved?
I'll be on stage.
Perfect. And telling what story?
The story of how we've grown so fast because our customers just seem to love us.
Awesome. Well, great to have you here, Maddie. Good luck for the rest of the event.
Thank you.
Yeah, so at Electrify, we also have some school students, which is amazing. With me is Anna from Tawa College. Now, Anna, what are you thinking about in terms of your career?
So I'm definitely thinking of either like the computer science, software engineering path, or either something in commerce, business, economics related.
Awesome. And what have you learned at Electrify? What's kind of springs to mind when you think about so far today? What have you learned?
Well, I can see that both of these things come quite hand in hand, especially in our like day and age with tech becoming a big like part of starting businesses, which is really cool. And also just the community aspect. I'm a really independent person, but I've definitely learned that it takes you need the right people backing you and to really succeed.
Awesome. Yeah. And if you came back next year or maybe in 10 years' time, what do you think might be true about your life and any startups or businesses you're involved in?
Not sure, but I definitely am reassured and hopeful. I definitely think it'll be a positive outcome for my future if I come back here. This definitely benefited me.
Awesome. Well, it's great to have you here. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, no worries.
Okay, well, I'm here with Lexi, also from Tawa College. Lexi, who has inspired you the most so far at this conference and why?
I think Nicole has definitely inspired me the most, considering she seems like a relatable person and she's quite outgoing and can express herself well, and it seems easy to relate to her.
Awesome. And if you had to start your own startup, you think about Nicole being relatable and accessible and the sort of person you might want to be, what kind of startup would you do today with a gun to your head?
I was just thinking, she really inspired me. I was, before yesterday, I was thinking how difficult it is to find a formal dress. So, is it a point in buying one? So I was thinking maybe, people could come and hire them. I could start up that or something.
Awesome. Well, that sounds like a great idea. What do you think you'll be doing with your career?
I would love to get into the commerce sector, finance or something. I want to go to university next year after for commerce, BCom degree.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us at Electrify.
Hey, thanks, Serge. Amazing. Now back to the studio. We have got in front of me right now, we've got Lucy and Hannah from Contented. Thank you so much for coming in because you've been there all day yesterday and today pretty much, haven't you?
We have. We did a workshop yesterday and a panel this morning. So
busy.
Yeah,
Tell me
amazing.
About the feeling of Electrify, because you guys are Christchurch based. Were you at the last Electrify? Tell me a little bit about how you got involved in this.
I've never been to Electrify. I had COVID one year and then I think last year we were in full build mode and we were we can't even leave our desks. You know, it was that sort of
that
thing.
feeling. And if it was a conference that our customers weren't at. It was just a luxury.
True.
And an expensive luxury.
An expensive luxury.
We had no money. So, and then this year it's been amazing, obviously, to speak and share our story. And I think a lot of that is about, like being able to give back. Like we've taken a lot maybe from lots of people as in like learnings, and to be able to give that back. And then also Contented, our platform, supporting the whole conference. So every single speaker session, workshop session has gone into the platform, and then every attendee can draw out their own insights and relive it all and share it with their teams, and which has been amazing.
This is gold, guys. Like I think I said to you before, I'm going to be embarrassingly fangirl, but back to actually the Electrify piece and how you got involved, it is so important to make sure that you've also kind of balancing it out with who's actually there, but you are giving back, and that's so important. But for the listeners who haven't been to Electrify today, haven't heard about Contented, or you guys, if they haven't, they should. Tell me a little bit about it. Tell me a little bit about Contented, and also why they're using it particularly today and yesterday at Electrify.
Our big vision really is around capturing the world's most important conversations. It's key. We always see Contented in the future, hopefully being used by the UN, and the reason why is because we think that there needs to be more accountability. There is so much richness in a conversation. Just because you account something as a meeting doesn't mean it just needs to come and be turned into meeting notes.
Yeah,
it should actually be turned into marketing. There's so much amazing gold and insights in those meetings, and historically we've only just looked at meetings as something to be jotted down a minute. So we see it as a really rich insight, and some of the most amazing insights are during conferences.
Yeah, great.
People are preparing, people are sharing their experiences, their learnings, their lives, vulnerabilities, action plans, things to consider. And so it was a really organic kind of process to go, actually, we should be able to give this ability to those running conferences. So behind the scenes, they're also using it for content and being able to create amazing sort of insights for sponsors. All the way on the other side, as attendees, you get to go back and share kind of insights with your team. You can create amazing meeting summaries, action plans. So it's a really sort of natural way of using Contented, and something we didn't really think too much into. Funnily enough, at the same time as Electrify, there was another conference in Palm Springs, also using Contented.
Are they?
Yep. So it was at 4 a.m. yesterday, talking to Andy, who was Contented on the ground in Palm Springs at their convention centre.
It's good to hear, though, because you're quite right. It's really interesting thinking about this. I had a management offsite about 6 months ago, right? And I purposely chose to use and record all 3 days. I told everyone, it's like, all 3 days I'm going to record it, right? Because it dawned on me really quickly that I will take away the only notes that I'm thinking at the time, but actually to go back and go through the insights of what everyone else was saying and to reflect on that was so important. And that was just me going, actually, this will be very biased. It's just me. I need to make sure I do that. So you're tapping into this, right? It's really interesting. Where did it come from, and how did you guys meet? Because I've already told you how I'm the biggest fan of what you're doing, and I cannot wait to be using it more. So you obviously saw a problem and you've delved into that. Lucy, tell me how the two of you met and a little bit about the sort of the journey to where we are right now, if you can.
So I think the backdrop of Electrify is so cool for us because it does feel a little bit full circle. Like me and Hannah met at the Ministry of Awesome.
Amazing.
So we were two startup founders.
Oh, you're a great story, girls.
Working on separate startups. Yeah. And me and Hannah are quite different even in the way we operate, but we have exactly the same humour. And we became best friends just from working side by side together on our separate startups. And we met Marian, and we just fell in love with our problem that we were solving, and we came together there. And then, after a couple of years, financially, some things are going to be tough with startups. It was for me, it was an R&D project. It was firstly my first idea. I built a product, I tried to sell it, ended up falling in love with other areas of what I was building. At the same time, AI jumped onto the scene, and I was kind of building and being able to use that technology quite quickly and rapidly. Hannah, who is incredible at connecting with people, saw that AI was less about the tech, but more around the pain point and the solving there. So together, me and Hannah started teaching people how to use AI. Hannah for more of the softer, me for the implementation.
Right.
And we got paid for it. which was massive.
Always helpful.
It was really helpful.
Always helpful. Hannah,
Yeah,
what were they
it was
saying
really
to you?
key.
Because we've talked a bit about this. We've had a few people come onto the podcast talking about AI and the implementation within the workplace and why it's important. For example, there's some people saying, I'm really nervous about the security of what people are using, or I'm nervous that my team aren't going to use it well. What were what were the pain points, and then what were those steps to get people feeling comfortable with the use of it?
Yeah, so it was amazing going into businesses and not talking about AI or tech. That was the first thing.
Yeah.
I think that was what was really tripping people up, is kind of coming in with the solution and trying to retrofit everything in. And so we would spend a lot of time talking about like even cultural issues and, where are you when that issue is happening? And a lot of it kept coming through was obviously note taking and capturing insights. Like that kept coming through all of the time. There were data things, so we would be creating tools to help people turn their data into, reports, and we were working with mortgage brokers and some commercial lighting companies. So we were doing what we called pain point zappers.
Right.
And even then, we still felt like we were solving a problem, but when you look at a whole business, that was still only a tiny part, which is, I think, what a lot of people feel currently with AI. So when we landed on, and it was so many customers we were working with and so much user research, that we realized that the power of voice with AI. So capturing real words that people are saying, only looking at them and transforming them into meaningful things, all of a sudden that unlocked so much for our customers because it was solving so many pain points. It's not just saving hours, it's well-being. It's like people being engaged at work, people being able to connect with humans in a meeting because you're not typing. All of a sudden, contented in how we ended up building it as a SaaS product solves probably 15 pain points at once rather than
it's a
just
different form of communication sometimes too, isn't it? So I look at my management team and we all process information differently, which is fine. That's what makes us amazing. And we all communicate differently. And I know that sometimes I'm firing off stuff at them and they're just thinking, I need to process what you're saying. And I'm like, come on.
Keep up.
What's going on? But it's nothing to do with anything. It's probably, if anything, I've found the use of Contented is really useful for me to just download some of my thoughts. For 2 weeks I was travelling around London and I was meeting people all the time, right? And I was had the ability to leave notes and then upload them later or do whatever I could do. So I could actually then go, when I met that guy and I was at the Ned and I was having a conversation about something, what were the key things that I was thinking about when I left? So important, because you get 2 weeks down the track and you've had another conversation and it's key. And actually, even at the conference that I was at, I was also recording some of it as well because I was tired. I just had a conversation, a meeting. It was not disrespectful in any shape of them, like I wanted to hear, but to be able to go back and say, what were the key points, particularly around that, which is gold. And for you to be a panelist and to get on and know that the time and energy, I just had the Power Suit girls on and they spent 2 days going through the process of what they were going to say. Now your tech has taken that and is going to enable everyone to get the little nuggets of gold that they have. I mean,
totally.
I mean, I don't want to be, you might be emotional about it. I just think this is incredible and I'm blown away by it. But tell me a little bit about, from your perspective, the pain points that you're seeing and, how they've solved them and what are the sort of future pain points going to look like? So as you're evolving and thinking, Lucy, from a tech perspective and you're thinking about what people are saying next, what are the things that you're wanting to really sort of branch into?
I think you touched on it there, which is human nature, especially after a meeting. You act on the immediate urgent things quickly, but there's research to sort of suggest that the things that maybe aren't urgent but are important, it's kind of that sort of that area of insight just is hardly touched, and those are the things that often move the needle. So if you can use Contented to surface up, cool, those are the urgent aspects, but let's dive into that part where we talked about XYZ, and that actually is something that I think Contented, and we hear it time and time again, like you just said, it's you do these back-to-back conversations, they're equally important, you get back to your hotel room and you have this moment where you get to open up Contented and revisit and learn. And what's incredible, and we can speak to our own sort of team, which is Hannah will be having amazing sales conversations. She really connected with somebody, potentially more so than me, and I connect with certain people. But those insights need to be shared with me because they're talking about the problem and the issue. So with Contented, not only does Hannah create sales content, she learns from it. She goes, actually, what questions should I have asked? She then creates product insights for me. She then creates insights for our software team to go, hey, this is where our user is when they experience this problem. So when Mia goes, oh, crap, John is, shaking. There's a story behind it. Hannah then gets to share that. And so it's being able to sweat that asset into so many different areas.
It's so true. I mean, I used to say to my team when I was based in London, I'd send the sales guy out and I'd always send a tech guy. I said, you're both going to hear different things in this meeting, so I'm never going to just send one of you. You've actually just solved me from a resource perspective, because actually I needed the tech guy back at work, right? Like that's the it feels like a small tick in the box, but it's such a tick in the box, because you're right, like what the sales guy and the product guy has heard versus what the tech team need to hear are often quite different.
And we give users the ability to listen too.
Yeah.
So we have in that human-centered module the ability for our team to listen to the struggle. It's not just a transcript or words. The team can actually play back that quote where they describe that feeling, because Contented also needs to sort of understand the line between, AI saying someone was sad, happy, versus a human being able to listen to that and quantify and understand that emotion themselves.
Yeah, I totally hear you. I've had a relatively heated client call recently, and I did actually spend some time going back over it and saying, was this something that perhaps I could have done differently? But actually, I say we, second guess myself. So sometimes it's really important for me to be able to go back over those types of things and could I have done something differently, and enable me to listen back. It's really important. So tell me, there's obviously competition in the space, right? So where is your competition? And how are you differentiating yourself? I know we're talking about the human-centered piece, which I think is critical. And obviously the UN have given you the badge of, what are the things that you're finding are really differentiating you from the other competitors?
I think the big thing, particularly for New Zealand companies, is transcription for Kiwi accents, Te Reo. Like, that's huge. We have a lot of, iwi sort of owned organisations as customers who that automatically is huge. So that's talking about quality of transcript, which ours is exceptional, but it's also then the nuance and the detail of these outputs. So if there are definitely customers who need very quick automated insights from multiple sales calls, if they only want a few points, that's actually Contented does so much more for that. It doesn't necessarily mean that that's the perfect product for them, but for all of our customers who have very rich, deep, maybe emotional, complex conversations, multiple people, it just shines. Contented really shines compared to our competitors. And at the start, we would probably get a little bit hung up on what was happening in the market. There's AI meeting note takers everywhere. And it's really easy to keep looking at them. And all we do now is just show our customers or potential customers and actually encourage them to compare it. Just compare it to other tools, Microsoft or Firefly.
Yeah, it's really powerful.
Just do that, and they'll come back and go, this is amazing. And it's actually better for us if people have used these tools before, because they can see the vast difference straight away. It's just, it's there.
Yeah, no, I've used a few. So I think I'm a good example of that, which I think is to my point around how you differentiate. As a Kiwi-based business, we often have people sitting on the couch saying it's often word of mouth anyway. You get, this is what I love about even where you are at the moment at Electrify. People are going to be like, have you talked to? Like, there's something about being a New Zealand founder or working in this space where people want to see you be successful. Are you finding that as well? Like, are people having conversations at local cafes, barbecues, schools? What's going on?
It really, I feel really privileged, and I think we feel really, really privileged that we get to be exposed to very kind humans. I know that sounds really funny, but it always astounds me that a customer of ours then recommends us to a Singaporean shipping company because they love us so much. And it takes gusto, it takes confidence to go, hey, this is a software we're loving, you should try it too, because it reflects back on them. And so when we hear that people are talking about Contented, whether it's a shipping company or a bakery down around the corner, it is just the coolest thing ever. Especially when we hear a lot of stories around users using it for, they're talking to their dad who's, turning 90 and recording conversations about their life, and making sure that, is Contented, where's that data stored? I feel really confident with Contented. I feel like I can use it for those really important, powerful conversations. And so when we say our vision is to be a part of the world's most important conversations, I'm not just talking UN, I'm talking family conversations.
Totally.
Family, yeah.
So
It's
tell
really
me,
important.
my background was a little bit of communication surveillance. So we did this for traders over in London, right? So it was all about security. It was all about making sure that if somebody was using their mobile phone where they're taking out their SIM card, all that type of stuff. I know that you've really tapped into that and really made that quite purposeful to make sure that people feel comfortable using it. I love that you got a prompt saying, make sure you tell people you're about to record them.
Yeah.
Those things are important, right? So just tell me a little bit about that, Lucy, because I know that you probably felt that was a really important piece from a technical perspective.
Yeah. We feel that really strongly to be custodians of this data, and we don't take it lightly. Like, for example, the phone app, super simple. Like, it really is just a record button. Yep. You can toggle some things, you can put biometrics, you can, there are some amazing little kind of features, but the key feature really is that if somebody steals your phone, you lose your phone, that conversation goes straight into Contented. It's not stored locally, which all the other apps are. So it means that if you are having really private conversations, if you're a HR individual, you are having really important recordings, that nobody can tap into that. But that's a bit of engineering finesse, and it from the outside just looks like a simple app, but those things we spend time on
100%,
and it's not super glamorous, but we feel really proud of spending that time building that thing.
But those are the things that will take you to the next level, right? And actually, as we're educating people on these types of tools, because what I would say is this is something that you guys are talking about 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, probably, to each other and to everybody else. So it becomes a norm. But there are a lot of people who are like, ooh, this is new. This is a bit scary. What does this actually mean? Like, even, as you sort of say, from a family perspective, if I put that in front of my mum, she'd be like, oh, but what is it that you can kind of be a bit safe about it? But this is an education piece, and you're keeping up with the evolving technology at the time as well, which is really interesting. But what is it when it comes down to the difference between what you're doing and what others are kind of looking for? It is the way that you're actually sort of technically making people feel really comfortable. Is that something that comes out straight off the bat with when you're sort of talking to your customers? Are they like, wait, hang on a second, what are you going to do with these,
It was probably when we started and we launched Contented in August last year as a SaaS product. Probably for the first few months, that the security conversation would come up really quickly.
Right.
Now people are learning a lot more and probably educating themselves, even through AI, like using ChatGPT to actually learn a little bit more about what this means. We work with some health companies, some wealth management companies, for example, where those security conversations come up very quickly. But then it's also very easy for us to put their minds at rest and then focus on, okay, let's look at what you can actually do with this and how it can transform your whole business. And then it goes from there. For some of our larger enterprise customers, it used to be that you would be talking to the head of IT. Like, that would be the person that you'd go in with.
Yeah.
Now that's absolutely the end of the process. So you're talking to the people with the real problems who that's what they want to know. Like, what is this going to do for my day? There's other people to deal with the security thing and they can check over some documentation, but actually they really want to just know what that's going to do for them and how it's going to help them.
But consent is big. Like, and there's only so much me and Hannah can do in terms of teaching New Zealanders, or, all our users around the world, that what consent is and how to record appropriately. In New Zealand, the law is that only one person has to provide consent, but that could be the person that starts the recording.
Interesting.
So, and there's been a recent law, court case around this.
Right.
And I think that sort of needs to change. And I think for Contented, we're consistently trying to innovate on best practice. So, for example, that little pop-up to remind you, that's great, but it's just the beginning. Like, what does actual consent mean? Could it be a verbal signature? Could you say at the start of the recording, yep, I provide consent? And also your data, because I think with AI comes questions around data and where it's stored. You're getting, people who ordinarily wouldn't even think about their data asking questions around where is it living? Where is it located? What does this look like? So we're moving into a world where people want to be able to store their data locally. They feel really like sovereign around it and they want to understand it. And I think for some tech companies, it's pretty stressful to provide that because ordinarily they could kind of hide in the dark.
Very true.
Around this. Yeah.
And so are you finding yourself, are people coming, well, they should be if they're not, but are they coming to you to sort of, are you sort of sitting on working groups and helping educate this piece, or what is it that you're, or no?
We would like to.
You'd like to.
We'd like to, but we, again, I think me and Hannah sort of say we've kind of got to earn the right to. Even with Electrify, we're still learning. So we can kind of talk, in our workshop yesterday, we just talked about our failings, and all the things that we've kind of learnt along the way to get here, but we've got so much more to go. So I think for us, when the vision of Contented is realised, I think that's when we can kind of start to understand what lobbying looks like and what that means. But in order to do that, we've got to build Contented.
Right.
And
tell me a little bit about what the team looks like, because I mean, you've come from quite different backgrounds. Were you HR background?
Yep.
And you've come from
marketing and software.
Didn't you teach yourself how to code?
Yeah.
Oh my word, that's amazing. Was that just something to do during lockdown?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
Honestly, it was like kind of the best time. I kind of had a moment by myself with mum and dad.
Yeah.
Got into coding. But I think the difference though was I was very driven to build this thing I had in my brain.
Yeah.
If somebody sat me down and was like, yeah, you're doing a year of coding, I'd say absolutely not. So I think you kind of got to have that thing.
So when you're coming with the human sort of side of the chief people officer HR type thing, are they really excited about something like this? Like, if you kind of, because I can imagine they would be, particularly with the types of conversations that you have to have, and you've got to be protected. So I remember when I was doing my job as well, I was protecting the trader as much as I was the compliance team, and I really felt quite passionate about that. I thought if someone's going to have a really rubbish conversation, they're going to do it outside anyway. So what are you hearing from your sort of people who've worked with previously?
Yeah, I mean, the HR side, obviously I still am like traumatised by some of these meetings that I was in on my own with a lawyer and a support person and the union trying to write notes. Like, it was honestly like just the sicky feeling that I would get. And so when I talk to HR people, like, that's just what comes through. I'm like, there's automatically this connection. And so it's hugely powerful. I think like it is quite easy to get HR people really excited. What we've found though in a lot of organisations is that unfortunately HR people don't have a lot of power and leverage.
Okay.
So they are expected just to get on with it. Saving an HR advisor's time from a higher level often isn't the place that they will try and fix first. And so we have the benefit of, because we can work across a whole organisation, HR can benefit from it. If it was just an HR tool, I think it would be really difficult for us to get that sort of, to find our way in there and help them build a business case just to look after them. So that's something really exciting for us, that we can
get in there and
actually impact them that way.
So in terms of Electrify, but also as, female founders and obviously working together, what are we not talking about that we should be talking about? Open question.
I would probably dive in, because I've got a 12-year-old girl. Just probably the difference of me growing up, and probably Lucy would relate to this, of kind of what types of jobs seem to be available to you. Like, you start going down a path, so my daughter, like, she's like, I want to be a lawyer. The reason she wants to be a lawyer is because she sees other lawyers. Lots of her friends' mums are lawyers. Actually, I think just recently she said she wants to be the CEO of Contented. So I'm like, yes, that's good.
Perfect.
So
she's got the job.
She's finally maybe seen that, like, she could do
best
that.
job in the world.
But just talking more at that level, like, how do you prepare women, girls, through school, and actually maybe focus less on doing cooking, for example, and maybe more on how to buy shares and build your portfolio, or how to start taking risks in business. Like, these things, I think they need to be taught early on. I didn't have them. The only reason I've got into this world is because I had, an experience I went through that made me want to make some change.
Mm-hmm.
Like something really quite severe happened. But I think for a lot of women, that might not happen and don't get the opportunity to go into this space. So that's
it's a really
important.
interesting point, because you would have seen all the young girls floating around at Electrify, their school uniforms on, and they're all there, eyes wide open, looking at you, probably all going, this is incredible. And more recently, I went back to my school here at St Mary's College and spoke at the Excellence Awards,
cool.
right? I wasn't sitting at the front at the Excellence Awards, by the way, ladies, when I was at St Mary's College. In fact, my history teacher still teaches there, and he was like, we didn't think she was going to be doing a hell of a lot, right? But I mean, my job hadn't been invented. I left school and there was no such thing really as electronic trading at that point. So there was all open outcry markets, and I got into markets infrastructure. It wasn't even there. And you're spot on, because the girls are kind of looking, and my daughter's the same, she's 14 and wants to be a chiropractor. I think because she can crack her brother's back every now and again. I don't know what it is, but she's seen it and she can put her eye on it. But I think actually establishing the fact of that it's a bit of an unknown and it's okay for it to be unknown. And look at, and I just talked previously with the Power Suit girls about aptitude, like what are you actually really good at? Like, let's talk a little bit about that. You clearly had an interest in things, and I think we joked about it before, about pulling things apart and putting them back together again. That says a lot. I couldn't drive a car for so long because I needed to know how it worked. And I remember my dad going, you don't need to know. Like, he was just losing his mind when I had about 35 lessons. I was like, but then when you change down to the number 2 gear and then you go around the corner, what? And he was just like, what? But I think the thing is, that was how I thought, and that's the way that I was learning. And this is what I'm wanting us to sort of see with these young girls, right? And I think the CEO role is going to be cracking in for your daughter. But what else are you hearing from the young girls that came to your event yesterday?
I think visualization is massive. Like what I've just heard from you guys is like, as soon as they see it and understand it and they hear it, then they apply it so quickly. And like, I think I was really lucky. My first job out of uni was working with 2 guys, Matt and Mark, who had built a startup and had sold it. And I was alongside them for that journey. And as soon as I saw somebody, an everyday dad, get so passionate about a problem that was accounts receivable and wanted to solve it for all the small businesses out there. And he got Mark involved, built the solution. And seeing that journey was so crucial for me, because I went, actually, maybe I could do this with a problem I've got. And so the more we can expose young women and young kids to that, the better. I do think the sad thing, though, and I think I hear this time and time again, is I think it's women, in our age demographic that feel like they need to have this eureka moment of an idea. And they kind of look at it as maybe this kind of glamorous thing, which, this idea of contented popped into our heads when we were having a shower. It's so totally not that. It was, you guys are living a problem. If you just kind of looked around in your team or your business or your company that you're working for, there are so many problems there waiting to be innovated. And I just hope that women can feel like they can take that risk and jump in and do it. And I think AI is just going to unleash that. I think the sad thing with a lot of software we use nowadays, it is built by software engineers that are pretty far away from the problem. And with AI, I think we're going to see a lot of incredible products because they're built not by the software engineers, they're built by them because they're in the problem and they can build that solution. So I think I'm really excited for women. I think this is this next phase. And you talked about it today with Kite. Imagine if you could use AI to build MVP. It would have been life-changing.
Yeah, that's I think a lot of people aren't in that position to put their whole, life on the line, house on the line. Yeah. And it shouldn't be that. Like, I think to be a startup founder in the past, it's actually you're in a position of privilege because something's allowed you to not work maybe and focus on this problem. Like, it's a luxury and it shouldn't be that. And I think, like Lucy said, we need more innovators. Like, the world that we're living in currently is not going so well. Like, we need people to be innovating in every area. People are talking about mental health less now because all of a sudden AI is this hot topic, or sustainability has taken a backseat. So we need, women to be, and men, to be kind of innovating and thinking outside the box and be given that space that it's okay to do that, carve out that time.
It's interesting. You're quite right. I'm just generally speaking, probably as a very proud Kiwi, so proud of the space that we have to do that, and the support you might get within school or university to do that. Where I'm working, we bring in the people from Victoria University and we get them into roles because we're like, come learn about, global technology. And it's places where people can kind of surround you with the opportunity, but equally, how do you know what the opportunity is? And you're quite right when it comes to the sort of the founder thing. You're right, it was when people had, a bit of money up their sleeve or someone had left them an inheritance. But actually, just even coming to Electrify today and listening to what Kiwibank are talking about, listening to what Electrify are doing in terms of, really propping up some of these people and what they and giving them a voice, even if they're just in their first kind of 3-man in a coat stand. So what's next for Contented? What's the team doing? What does the team look like? What does the future look like for you guys?
We've got an amazing small team in Christchurch, and I think AI helps with that. Like I think Sam Altman said recently that he can imagine a 2-man unicorn, sometime soon. And I think it's because we've got Mia. She started with us nearly 2 years ago,
right.
and thanks to a Callahan grant, she started with us, kind of was with us in the really early stages of Contented. And then we've got Charlie, who's recently joined from UC, and then we've got Peter, an advisor, and we've done a kind of a very new customer success person helping us.
Amazing.
Ollie. And I think we can do a lot of danger with just the small team we've got. We've been bootstrapped all the way through, and we're really proud of that. We've built a business that we know super kind of, and we've felt like financial stress. We've built the business. We've learned what revenue feels like. We know what the rhythm of revenue can feel like, and we know that we can build a really good business without raising investment too. Saying that, we've put a lot of we've put ourselves on the line in terms of taking risks, and they've paid off. So we are thinking about looking for investment, and they have to just be the right partner for us.
Yeah.
And I think because we've got to this point, we are looking and being a bit more careful with who we bring in. And we're excited for that.
And probably amazing for us, when we first joined Ministry of Awesome, we sort of started doing some pitching to VCs and got really, we weren't ready, obviously, with our own startups. And so you get this burnt feeling of I don't want to have to ever pitch again. And for us to now be in a position where we are, where we don't feel like we have to be begging for money or trying to convince someone of an idea, we just can actually show what we're doing. And if someone wants to be involved in that, that's incredible. And if they don't, it really doesn't matter now. And that's a really amazing feeling for us, because I think a lot of, particularly women, will be pitching, and it's really hard to get past that when you're trying to convince someone that what you're doing is going to be impactful and profitable. So we're looking forward to being able to have different types of conversations this time around.
It's a totally well-earned conversation. I mean, I would say thank you for giving back, because you've obviously spent time at Electrify with a lot of people today, and that's important. And even sitting down with me, so people that haven't been able to be there today can learn from you and what you've been doing. If there's anyone who's listening, and they will be, how can they get in touch with Contented? Is it on an app? What's the best way for them to download? Please do, by the way. It's a game changer. What can they do?
Thank you.
The best way to test the app, and you can do that with your own uploads for free, is contentedai.com, which is our website, obviously. And then connecting with Lucy and I on LinkedIn is always a really great way, as in just sending messages. So even after the conference, we've had lots of messages on LinkedIn. It's such an easy way to
really
connect.
is.
So that's, we're always happy to chat on there as well.
Yeah, but definitely download the app, start musing in the car, talk about anything.
It's quite cathartic, guys.
Very cathartic.
I mean, I got home after 20 minutes of talking into it, and I thought, well, at least it's just the Contented app that had to hear that. It was actually.
And you felt contented after?
Actually, I needed to get that off my chest. And actually, I felt way better. They talk about getting up at night and writing stuff. Sometimes it might this could be me walking around the house at 3 a.m. into my Contented app.
Ranting.
Yeah,
and there's a
ranting.
button called Musings, which I don't know if you've used that, but that's amazing for people who are just like, you can rant and do whatever you like into your phone. You still get the experience of ranting, but the other people get this little gift of this perfect output that makes sense. And so they don't have to hear
my
it.
team thank you so much in advance. They absolutely do. Hey, listen, thank you for taking the time to talk today. I know you've been really busy and you've got to get back, and I really appreciate it. I hope that everyone gets the opportunity to follow your journey, and I wish you the very best of luck.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank
for
you.
having
Being
us.
such a supporter.
Wow, another really fascinating conversation. Thanks, Adrienne. Here I am with my great friend Bron. Bron Thompson, tell us a little bit about why you're at Electrify.
Coming to places like this is how you get inspired. It's how you keep going. When you're a founder, when you're running a business, when you're doing stuff that's hard, it's hard. And actually, you just got to fill yourself up. You got to put your oxygen mask on first in order to keep going. And this stuff, honestly, I come away from these things with just sparks of inspiration, and it's really, really good.
And what drives that inspiration? Is it specific stories? Is it nuggets? Is it just general vibe in the room? What's the
vibe
thing?
in the room? I mean, being in a room full of primarily women who are interested in women founders, and just seeing the scale, it's so inspiring. But learning or seeing other people that are going through things that are similar, or have gone through things that are similar, is validating. But also being able to get nuggets of learning and seeing things and going, oh, yeah, we should do that. That would be awesome.
So you're an entrepreneur yourself. What is your hope or inspiration or aspiration for women-led entrepreneurship in New Zealand?
In New Zealand? I think we should
the world, actually. Let's go the world.
Yeah.
We are the world's biggest podcast here at Startup Theatre. So,
well, it would be good if we could get more than going from 2% to 2.4% growth of women-only founders in 4 years. We can change the world. We are the ones that will change the world because we automatically think differently from the norm. Sorry, Serge.
No, that's okay. I'm not offended.
The white man. You're a lovely white man, but we do. It's wired into us. We're wired to think about all the things that you don't normally think about and take a more holistic viewpoint. And so it's our turn.
What's your aspiration? What do you hope will be true 5-10 years from now?
That we're not even having this conversation.
Perfect. Well, let's hope never to talk about this again.
Yeah, exactly.
Back over to you, Adrienne.
What a privilege it's been to sit here today and have 3 sets of wonderful conversations from only a small subset of women who attended the Electrify Aotearoa conference here in Wellington. What Marianne and the team have done from the Ministry of Awesome is fantastic. I went along today, and the amount of energy and conversations that were happening, I bolted in just at the end of the Power Suit girls doing their introduction to what they were talking about around risk. It was just a real buzz, and I had never been before, so for me to have the privilege to attend was excellent. And getting the chance to sit down with Alliv and talk about the Cammy journey was fantastic. She is just such a genuine individual. She's actually in the process of having a conversation with the team at the moment over at Electrify about her sort of exit strategy. So we talked a bit about that. The Power Suit team came and sat on the couch. Really smart bunch of women really doing what they can to help elevate that gap between leadership and having more women in leadership roles. And finally, Contented. For me, from a personal perspective, it's been really interesting because Contented is one of the apps that I personally use, and I can see it being used in so many things from my role, from my personal perspective, in terms of helping reduce a lot of the mental load that I have. Their journey has been an incredible one, and one that I have certainly been very interested in, and talking to them today really showed that they are certainly on a journey, and they are going to be a really interesting set of ones to watch. So from my perspective, thank you very much for taking part, listening, watching, and being part of our journey for the Electrify Aotearoa version of Startup Theatre.